Okay.
Check over there.
Yeah, it's gonna be spring activities. They don't get numbers, just turn the camera on.
Proposed Tax Incentive Review Council meeting. Today is August 20th. I'm Michael Simziano. I am the Franklin County Auditor, which makes me the statutory chairperson for the TIRC. At this time, I'll ask each TIRC member or designee to please state your name and agency they're representing. Yeah, Franklin County Auditor. I guess I'll move to my right. Sorry for some of this. Sorry.
Quentin Harris, Deputy Director of Development for the City of Columbus.
I'm Mark Lundin, I'm the Economic Development Administrator for the City of Columbus.
And Bob Jones, Personnel Manager, Economic Development.
And Seth Brame, I'm the TIP manager for the City of Columbus Economic Development.
Michelle Larson, Development Program Coordinator, City of Columbus Economic Development.
Phil Piano, economics, public policy.
Molly Petiti, or the.
Andrew Dyer, designee for Columbus City Council. Jason Jenkins, designee for Mayor Ginter's office.
Eric Rao, Columbus City Schools.
Thank you all. I'll have Mr. Newcomb introduce himself.
Thank you, Franklin County Auditor.
All right, thank you all for being in attendance. Everyone's coordination to put this meeting together. Are there any additional stakeholders, people from the public, or media persons that wish to announce themselves in attendance for purposes of the record?
Chairman, I think we should allow the other school board representatives to introduce themselves as well.
If the other school board members would like to introduce themselves as well, or your
Amy Woods, Treasurer, Toll Career Tactics Center.
And Streety, Treasurer for Technology Education for the Lincoln County. Philip Wagner, Superintendent of Lincoln High Schools. Mike Berlingo, Treasurer and Jefferson Schools.
Alicia Drumming, Treasurer, Brookport, Madison, designee.
Stan Gilbert, Columbus City Schools, Treasurer.
New City Schools.
have anyone else that would like to announce themselves for purposes of the record? Seeing none, I appreciate again everyone's flexibility. It is a different setting. Third year I've got the opportunity to chair a TIRC and third different layout that we've had. So I appreciate everyone's patience. We will move to the folder content review. Mr. Graham is first on the agenda and I'd like to run through the folder contents for the City of Columbus is provided for us for review today.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone has a packet of material. Some of you have probably looked through it already a little bit. We will be referring to documents in the folder throughout the meeting. There's content location for each folder. The left-hand pocket is the agenda. The City of Columbus, Franklin County agenda is the second sheet. The Columbus Tax Incentive Summary is the third sheet. And then the fourth packet in the back, that pocket is the recommendations for 2020 term. For the 4-year 2019 and city follow-up. That's just a little summation from last year. In the right-hand pocket is today's consent agenda. And there's the 3 review agendas. And then right back to that pocket is the copy of the city council resolution regarding 2020 term. And then loose in the center are the minutes from last year's meeting. TIF report. What we call the school report or the 2020 project status report that we will refer to again later in the meeting. For that.
Thank you. We're running through that. Next up is review of last year's minutes dated August 17th, 2020. Are there any changes or corrections? Hearing silence, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Been moved by Bill, seconded, city. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Same sign for any opposition. And any abstentions. That's a pass. Next, we will move into the economic development presentation of the tax incentive summary and portfolio performance overview. And turn it over to Mr. Levy.
Thank you, Chair. In 2020, City of Columbus had 86 enterprise zone and community reinvestment area agreements. Reported job totals was 12,519. This is 87% of the goal. Noting new jobs was 3,713 new jobs, 58% of the goal. So a little color on that, since I've been doing this for 8 years, I think it's the first time we've been below 100%. I think 2020 provides us for next year. The retained jobs, we were at 8,806, which is 111% of our goal. And interestingly, the annual payroll was 167 million, which is 147% of the goal. So tracking on everything but the new jobs. And then we saw 1.3 billion in real property investment. TIF districts, we have 88 TIF districts in 2020, and over 5.8 billion has been invested in real property improvements. And we have 346 million in cumulative service payments for 2020.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll next review and vote on the TIF reports. We have multiple school districts, so I will do my best to announce applicable school districts, so I think everyone can also follow along with the agendas. Seth, going to be presenting?
Mr. Chairman, we skip agenda point number 5.
I apologize. Now we will move to Mr. Jones, the Columbus Enterprise Zone Manager. Staff report on last year's term recommendations, a city follow-up now.
Just to sort of let Seth go, but I better figure it out, but we skip that. So in the left-hand pocket, the one on the bottom is the recommendations and follow-up. There's several pages here. First couple of pages being fairly quickly. We had 3 review agendas last year. The first one was we had 25 agreements that reported late. But once they did report, they were found to be fully compliant. So the recommendation was to just send out letters expressing the importance of timely and accurate reporting. There were 25 agreements. The first 21 on that list were Columbus City School District. Number 22 was for Columbus and Jefferson combined. Agreement number 23 was Jefferson, and 24 was from Hilliard. And 24 was from Hamilton Local, and 25 was from Hilliard. The city complied with the recommendation to turn and send out those letters to all of those agents. The next dealt with review agenda B. And these were based on incomplete or active reporting. There were 14 agreements across 3 school districts. 9 agreements for Columbus. There were 2 agreements for Madison, I believe. So they're listed there, 1 through 14. We sent out letters recommending that to follow up. There we go. So I'm going to go through these, actually. Let's start with the Columbus recommendations. Those are first bunch. Move this fairly quickly. Car supply, there was an incomplete report, and did not report their construction payroll. Third recommended to continue and send the enterprise a letter requesting full reporting. The construction jobs and payroll report within 60 days of receipt of the letter regarding the payment risk dissolution. The city sent the letter. It's received, we delivered confirmation. However, no construction jobs and payroll report was submitted. If no, then this agreement is on review agenda C this year, so we're going to talk about that again. EW High Street, EW Hubbard High, that's a complete report, and not submitted or probably wasn't report. Recommendation of the send a letter requesting the report in 60 days or the agreement or resolution. So we sent the letter. The report was submitted by the enterprise. So from the client's request, and they are on the consent agenda. Barbie Specialty Vehicles did not report last year. Recommendation to continue. So the enterprise a letter requesting full report in 60 days. So this is the solution. Received communication from the enterprise in September of last year requesting that it be resolved. They did not move forward with the project. So the agreement was dissolved in February of 2021, and no reported materials were distributed. So that agreement is no longer. Granite, 1901 Baker Road, LLC, did not report. And continue, send a letter, request a report. Or if we didn't get it, they risk the solution. So we sent the letter, and the confirmation was received. We began communication regarding the reporting in November, continuing on through February of 2021, when the full report was received. Things done. So, here we go. We on the review agenda for this year. Merchant Columbus, report, that's the report. Then we sent them a letter, requesting the report. Days, list of the solution. Sent the letter. Materials were received in November of 2020. Then on the consent agenda. Iowa Power Company was an incomplete report. No construction payroll. The incomplete company risk report. Recommend to the agreement. Send the enterprise a letter for reporting in 60 days. For this is the solution. Sent the letter. Regarding this request began in November, and the request of materials received in January of 2021. They are on the review agenda A. Rick back to West owner 23 number 1, and Rick back to West owner 23 number 2. And on the list, initially thought it was incomplete. We actually had a complete report. Their recommendation would continue and send the letter requested for, but we found that they actually already did. So that was a mistake on our part. We misplaced the report, which is exactly what happened, but we had it. So they were actually a little fine with it. The last one for the city of Columbus is Riverview Hotel. They did not report, so achieving the agreement, send them a letter requesting for reporting or this the solution. They are on agenda C this year. They never did receive a report, but we're going to talk about that later. So we'll pick up on that towards the end of the meeting. There were 3 agreements for Road 4 Madison. Involving local cold storage and cold storage. Agreement number 1, number 2, and number 3. Agreement number 1, none of them reported. Last year was the final year for number one agreement. The third recommended to simply allow the agreement to expire. So there was no letter or something. Number two, and number three, recommendation to continue, send them a letter for reporting. The agreement would be dissolved. So they sent a letter, the confirmation was received. We never did receive a report. But the agreement's on the Jefferson. We actually have some good news about these guys. We'll talk about that later. Back to the agenda. For Hilliard, there were two agreements. Both have their bearings from Roxanne. Just called Roxanne number 2 and number 4. Number 3. It's pretty much both the same. We needed full reporting. Excel version of jobs and payroll report. The reason why we need the actual spreadsheet is so we can sort and look at the numbers and the jobs. And all we get is paper. I can't look at that, but I really don't know how many jobs, what the change job, full jobs are. So we asked them for the spreadsheets. We did receive the reports finally in March of this year. Roxanne number 3 is on the consent agenda this year. Roxanne number 4 will be on the agenda. Mentioned that. And then for full review last year, there was 11 agreements. The first 7 on that list were City of Columbus. Agreements 8 and 9 are the Jefferson. Agreement number 10 is Hilliard, and then the one at the very bottom, Delaware County. We talked about this earlier. So for the City of Columbus recommendation, short order, we request the jobs plan, the real property report. Clerk will continue, requested. They were supposed to attain 40 new created jobs by 2021. We also asked for a commercial space only private investment number. There was no response timeframe on this. We sent the letter. No response was received. And on the review agenda this year. The Brother Building. Third one to continue. Sent a letter requesting a jobs plan. Combining their really 4 jobs. And also to provide a commercial space and investment. What was happening on a couple of these is they were reporting total real property investment on a mixed use project. So mixed use might have some ground floor retail, have a lot of residential apartments, and some commercial space. We're only interested in the investment related to commercial office space. So their commitment was $10 million commercial office investment, and we get a report that says we invested $40 million. Just how much of that is working? So we asked for that. Then the response was received from the former building, and then I'll review next week. Claris Ventures Solutions and Partners. We're going to continue to amend the agreement so that we can add another job creating entity. We asked for a response within 60 days. Sent out the letter. We information with the enterprise. Got a request of materials in January of this year. It's been authorized by City Council to be amended. This was passed in July. We had the National Job Created Entity, which revised the language regarding job creation movement. And we added language requiring the future enterprise initiated amendments. So that amendment process is in process. We're going to try to straighten this agreement out for a couple of years. So that was for last year, but it was the same thing. We'll do agenda groups. But they did comply with the grant. They're going to be a good shape. Former upholstery, KBL properties, active time of reporting. When we continue, we are updated job numbers. Coming in, we accepted those to be compliant in terms of the agreement, but also to send them a letter reminding them that there was an accurate time. The letter was sent, and put that in they're on the consent agenda this year. Public Park Place. The jobs plan and real property investment report. We recommend continue and send a letter to the enterprise request for jobs plan to fund the process between before we would create a job budget funding and to provide a commercial space for the private investment. We sent the letter. Information was received. No response was received about jobs. The consent agenda this year, people, their jobs. Shape, so that's why, even though didn't respond, obviously, place by 2020, get them jobs. Huntington National Bank, so we're doing Freeman Avenue, a jobs plan, and for accurate time reporting. We recommend continue, set up a jobs plan based on employment that will be maintained and a new job level to reach. A reminder of the court's accurate employment reporting. Send a letter, member, and communication of November. It was all that communication that this was the value good and fine of job creation. We were good to see the results from the reporting cycle. We did, and they are on actually. So that's the report of these two agreements to Jefferson. Two of the airside projects out by the airport, airside 1 LLC and airside 2. Airside 1 actually requested jobs plans for the both of those. Sent jobs plans. Request, there was no response time frame. See, no responses received. However, airside 1, they're doing really good. Their jobs were there this past year. So consent agenda this year, as is for their airside 2, their jobs will shape. So they're on consent agenda this year. Elgin City School District, there was one agreement, Mainscript Solution, and ATS Buildings Investments. Jobs plan and real property report. Continues, jobs plan, and provide a corrective itemized view of no response time frame. Sent the letter, no response was received, and they're on the agenda B this year. For the jobs, continue to be able to flow, complement that with the agenda. So that was it. That's the results of.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Can you stand up, announce your name just so they can hear it maybe on the microphone when you talk?
Alicia Drumming, Groveport, Madison. I wanted to motion that we remove agenda CR2 for a separate vote from consent.
There is a motion on the floor to remove CR2 from the consent agenda. Is there any second?
Which one is that?
Can you clarify which one that is? I get through everyone else.
Sorry, this is clothing, cold storage. It's number 8. And then the CR2 agreements.
Okay.
So we're looking at it, looks like it may be number 10 or 11.
Are you referring to the which agenda did you go to?
Says Turk session 2, 10 a.m. to 12:30.
Right.
It's on page shape.
It's 70 and 70.
Yeah.
3, but 8.
Okay, got it. We will talk about those separately. We do get to that point of the agenda.
So would you be comfortable holding on the motion for when we get to that part in the agenda? And potentially without a consent at that time?
The code related agreements will be, they're on the full review agenda.
I'm sorry.
The code related enterprise organizations are on the full review agenda. So they will be reviewed separately.
Oh, okay.
So they aren't on the consent agenda.
Well, no, they're on the review, they're under consent and. So point number 8, they're on page 3 of your agenda, is 1A consent and review on Columbus City School District. We go through the review agendas first, and the agenda 3, review that's on page 4. There are 2 agreements for both classes. So we'll talk about those individually later.
So would those be a separate vote then?
Yes.
Or-
Yes.
okay.
Separately.
We had a motion, I didn't hear a second, so we will move on. Are there any other questions or comments or requests based or the feedback? Staff would like to. Hearing none. We'll finally get the set. I'm so excited, Seth. So here we go. Seth will provide a review and vote on the TIP reports with multiple school districts. As I mentioned, I will do my best to review not to Seth, mention which school districts are going to be part of the TIPs. Seth, for my question. Except that, are you going to?
But yes, I'm going to do that, and I'll go.
Okay.
So what we'll do is, we're going to start on page 4 of the TIP report.
Is there a microphone?
Yeah.
You get from your bottle? The mask is making it very hard to hear you.
These microphones do not contribute to the live feed, they only contribute.
Yeah, I think the school district members maybe have a hard time hearing. I know my question closer.
So page 4 of the TIP report. I'll ask you to turn to that. We will move through the report by school district grouping and central review. 18 tips. Number 68 through 82 and 86 through 88. So we'll introduce each group and Seth will present the group. Come back to me and the chair will ask any questions, and then we'll vote and continue the tips at the group. School district. There'll be several opportunities for questions and votes on all these. So first up is Columbus City School District, Union City, Southwestern City, and Bowles.
So this is the Old Dublin Road TIP. We initially created this in 2015 and the city expanded it in 2019. So the numbers I'm going to go over are only for the 2015 parcels that we're still waiting for approval from the state on the 2019 parcel. So currently our projected 30-year private investment is about 121 million, of which we've attained as of last year about 23 million. Cumulatively, we've received TIP funds of almost $70,000, which we've already spent all of them. And then of that almost 70,000, we received 57,000 of that last year in 2020. And as I just said, we've already spent all that money. What the $70,000 is going toward is a public sanitary line and water line extension along Dublin Road and Tribune Road with costs of around $1.5 million. That's it for that.
So thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? If there's no further review, I'd like to take a motion to accept the report. Finance. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Same sign for the opposition. And any abstention. Board is accepted.
Next up is, one tip in Plum City, Dublin City, and Tolls.
This is our public crossing tip around the mall in northwest Columbus. And we have a projected 30-year private investment around 76 million, which we've attained 67 million. We've currently received almost $14 million of revenue, have spent all of that. Last year alone, we received 505,000, which we spent all of it. Debt financing.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing no further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the TIP report, finding compliance.
So moved.
Been moved. Seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for any opposition and any abstention. The report is accepted.
Okay, next up is, Columbus City, and Jefferson City, and Eastland Fairfield.
So these are our Easton and new Easton tips. The original Easton tip was created in 1996. Last year, the city passed legislation in November to extend that original 30-year term for the 96 tip to 2057. The developer identified a number of public infrastructure improvements that still need to be completed, as you're aware. Like Easton, they have quite a bit of undeveloped land yet that they are planning to develop over this term. So to quickly go over the numbers, they have a projected 30-year private investment of about $1.4 million, which we've obtained almost 1.2 million. We've received cumulatively almost 100 million, which we've spent cumulatively almost 93 million. Last year alone, we received $9.9 million, and we spent last year almost $8.5 million from the TIP funds. I believe last year was the first year we received revenue from the new Easton TIP. Part of what our costs are going towards are they completed 2 completely public garages up there, and they've also done quite a bit of new road construction for their urban district. That completes this report.
Thank you for the report. As mentioned, this is 2 tips, so we're going to take one vote. Are there any questions or comments from any members of? Seeing no further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the report and find it in compliance. Second.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for the opposition. And any abstention. The report is accepted.
Okay, next up, Columbus City, and Jefferson City, Eastland Fairfield, CTS, Heights, Local, and CTS Career. Yeah.
This is our East Broad commercial tip, originally legislated in 2005. So we didn't have initial city or private investment, but as of end of last year, the city has projected the actual payment to be about $36 million, which we've received almost, well, about $3.7 million, and we've currently spent about $735,000. Last year alone, we received about $302,000, which we spent last year alone, $378,000. And what that is going towards is the city is currently working on design for the widening of East Broad Street from I-272 Reynoldsburg to Albany Road. That completes the report.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for your opposition. And any abstention. Board is accepted.
Okay, next is Columbus City, local, Madison local, Pemberton local, Roundsburg City, Eastland Fairfield, CTS.
This is our Bryce Road tip near I-70. We did not have a 30-year private investment projection, but as of last year, the attainment is about 7.8 million. We cumulatively received 185,000, of which 65,000 was received last year. To date, we have not spent any of these tip funds. That concludes the report.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? No further review, Lacey, motion to accept the report and find any comments.
So moved.
Been moved.
Should run.
Are you my second?
Sure.
Thank you. Eric was my first. Been moved and second. All those in favor, please signify by same sign for position and the position.
Okay, next is Columbus City, and it's a local. Yes, one tip.
So this was a new tip that the city legislated and created last year. It's a non-school 40B tip with 100% exemption for 30 years. It's near Reagan Airport, hence the name. It's primarily in two areas. One part of the tip is by High Street and Parsons, north of Balance Raceway, and the other part of it is south of Roar Road, and then it goes towards State Route 317. Part of the tip that's below that road. We have a 112 million warehouse development in the area along Roar Road, and then a potential $300 million data center for the High Street and Parsons Avenue areas. Currently, these service payments are expected to be used to widen Roar Road and add turn lanes. Also, a potential roundabout for State Route 317, and then also Collins Drive, which currently exists north of State Route 317. Is going to be extended all the way to Roar Road, and then there's additional utility work that's needed. So that's a total projected 30-year private investment of about $412 million. As I said, this is a new tip, so there are no new numbers to report on.
Thank you for the report. Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? No further review. I'd like to take a motion to accept the report.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Same sign for opposition. And then
Next up is Columbus City, we will over the claim local, Eastern Fairfield CTS, who's one tip.
This is another new tip that was created by the city of Columbus in 2020. It's a non-school 40B tip with a 100% exemption for 30 years. It's in the vicinity of North Hamilton Road and the State Route 161 interchange. This tip overlaps partly with some of our existing tips, and we removed some undeveloped parcels from our Dublin Randall North and South tips. Added a couple additional parcels that had never been tipped before and created this tip. As you can see, we have a projected 30-year private investment of about 75 million. That's going towards a new Class A office building that, as well as there's additional retail and a planned mixed-use development around Hamilton Road. And these service payments are expected to help finance a new road called Central Boulevard, ramps at 161 and North Hamilton Road, in addition to the widening of North Hamilton Road. And then there are the possibility that this could go towards additional public infrastructure improvements, depending on tip revenue going forward.
thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Any number review? I'd like to take a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
I'll let you have the motion in here. 30 seconds.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for opposition.
Next is Columbus City and Westerville City, this one tip.
This is our North Road tip. Did have an original 30-year private investment of about 15 million, which we've projected an attainment of almost $83 million. Cumulatively, we've received over $5.7 million, which we've spent almost 1.8 million. Last year, we received about 495,000 and expended 563,000. Our expenditures are currently going towards Sinclair and a sidewalk project.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing no further review, I'd like to see a motion to accept the report. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. And any abstentions?
Okay, this next grouping is, we have Jefferson City and East Field CTF. There are two Jeffs.
These are our Lucent tip or residential tip and our Lucent commercial tip, also in the East Broad area by 270. We did not have an original projected 30-year private investment, but that is currently $145 million paying. The tips, the two tips have received about $9.2 million, of which we have spent about 7.2 million. And we received about $1.2 million last year and an expenditure of about $500,000. That concludes our report.
Thank you for the report. As the mentioned, it's 2:10, but we want to vote. Are there any questions or comments? Here, I'd like to see a motion to accept the report. Anyone else?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Next is Hilliard City and Tolls Career and Tech Center. Okay.
This is our Quarry Trails tip that was created in 2019. We are still waiting for approval from the state, so there aren't any numbers to report as we haven't received any revenue and expended any revenue. Our original projected 30-year private investment, however, was about $197 million. For this report.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? We'll move on. We see the motion. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for the opposition and any abstention. It's accepted.
Next is Licking Heights Local and SUTEP. Two tips.
We have two tips, the Wagner Road tip and the Wagner MI tip created in 2002 and 2005 along our East Broad corridor. Our original projected 30-year private investment was about 1.5 million, which we think we attained $108 million. Cumulatively, we've received almost $11 million and expended almost $6.4 million. Last year, we received about $867,000 and expended $110,000. That $110,000 went towards parkland acquisition in the East Broad corridor. That concludes the report.
Thank you for the report. Again, 2 tips, 1 vote. Questions or comments? Hearing none. Motion for approval.
Thanks, Brady.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. And any abstention? Or is accepted?
Next is New Albany Plain Local and Eastern Fairfield CPS.
This is our double granule south tip. It's near Hamilton Road and State Route 161 in northeast Columbus. We did not have a projected 30-year private investment, but we projected that today is about $32 million. Cumulatively, we've received almost $593,000 and spent about $471,000. Last year, however, we only received about $27,000 and expended $295,000.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd like to see a motion to accept the report. Finding reports. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for opposition. Only with board is accepted.
Okay, next is Reynoldsburg City and Eastern Fairfield CTS. There's one tip.
This is our East Broad Dominion tip. We did not have a projected 30-year private investment, but we paying as of the end of last year about $65 million. Cumulatively, we've received 3.7 million, of which 548,000 roughly came in 2020. To date, we have not expended any of these TIP funds, but as I mentioned before, the city is currently working on the widening of East Broad Street in this corridor.
Any further report? Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, let's seek a motion to accept the report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Sign the opposition. And any abstention.
Okay. Last one in this group is Worthington City. Yes.
This is our Buffalo Parkway and Crosswoods tips. Collectively, we had a 30-year private investment of almost 19 million, which we obtained over $30 million at the end of last year. Cumulatively, we've received about $2.4 million, which 185,000 came from TIP revenue in 2020. We've spent to date about $1.2 million, which the expenditure last year was about 20,000, and that was just for the Buffalo Parkway to pay for the road construction that was approved. That was the report.
Thank you for the report. Again, 2/10, one votes. Are there any questions or comments? Being no further review, let's seek a motion to accept the report and find in compliance. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for opposition. Anyone say? Report is accepted.
Just would like to make a note that moving forward, we're only going to need Columbus, Indiana Jefferson, for Madison, for Gillian City, South Madison City, Fairfield, Career Tech, and Cole, with anyone back in the room, from any other district that I did not read, go home, go back to work, or whatever you want to do.
They can also stay if they want.
That's their choice.
But I do think you earn a holiday card. Next, we will move to review and vote on the TIP report for Columbus City School District only. 67 tips would be one vote. Don't know which one's going to be presented. So I will be.
Over to Seth, and Seth will present one TIP report.
So, yeah, so we'll talk about the total numbers for all 67 tips, what our cumulative and 2020 numbers were. We'll also highlight a little bit of some of the public infrastructure projects and the costs that we did last year. But I'm going to start off by talking about the 5 new tips that we created in the Columbus School District. The first one is the Gravity Phase 2 tip. That's in East Franklinton, a non-school 40B tip with 100% extension for 30 years. We took these parcels from our East Franklinton tip. It's a expected $120 million mixed use development. And the tip revenues are going to contribute to paying for public spaces in a garage, in addition to community development charges and garage revenue. The next tip that was created is the Madison High Street tip. This is in downtown Columbus. We pulled these parcels from our downtown tip. It's a non-school 40B tip, again with 100% for 30 years. This tip is located on High Street between Day and Long Streets. And it's projected that we're going to have a $71 million redevelopment, which will include apartments and public spaces in the garage. Third tip we created last year was also in downtown, like the Madison High Street tip. It's a non-school 40B tip for 100% exemption for 30 years. This one is on East Broad. I don't know if I mentioned the name, but it's the PNC Gilbert tip, which is where the PNC Tower is, and then the Gilbert building is to be constructed a couple blocks to the east. Those are 135 million redevelopment. And it's expected that the TIP revenue will help pay for public spaces and a garage, improving an existing elevated public walkway, and creating a public sunken park plaza. Our fourth TIP that was created last year is our Peninsula Tip, which is right across the river from us. It's a non-school 40B tip with 100% exemption for 30 years. Again, this is a 200 million mixed use development with office, hotel, and multifamily, including workforce housing. The tip service payment, in addition to community development charges, are going to go towards street improvements, particularly a new street called Highwater Alley that is south of Broad Street in the middle of the development. The final tip that was created in Oklahoma School District is our Stadium 41 tip. This is a non-school 41 tip, hence the name, the 100% exemption for 30 years. It's currently in the vicinity of where Nationwide Boulevard terminates at the Mackenzie River. We took these parcels from our existing Jaeger tip, the projected $109 million mixed use development, and the tip service payments in addition to community development charges are going towards debt financing for the project. That concludes our 5 new tips. Kind of give a summary of our existing portfolio. It had a projected 30-year private investment of $2.9 billion, which we retained $5 billion at the end of last year. Our cumulative service payments are about $224 million, which we've spent about $178 million today. Last year in 2020, we received about $24.5 million and expended about $18.5 million. Some examples of public infrastructure improvements that we did with the 67 TIFs are we are working on the connection for Short Street behind the Kroger and Brewery District. We are also working on design of a new public park in Northeast Columbus. In addition to working on design of North Hamilton Road and widening that. And then final example is the 3rd Avenue improvements off of Mackenzie River Road was also completed. And that concludes our summary of the 67 physical deaths.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? If there's no further review, I'd like to see the motion to accept the TIP report.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign by opposition. And any abstention. Report is accepted. CRA report. We will review and vote on the status of the CRA being done with the tax. So the record of school district will have one vote on all these CRA reports. So look forward to it.
Okay, so that's point 8 of the agenda. We run through consent and review for the agreements. With 41 agreements total. First up is the consent agenda. Consent agenda is agreements that are considered to be in compliance with the terms within each agreement. The city would recommend they reach agreements within each school district or noted as dissolved. So I'm going to ask you to refer to your consent agenda sheet in the packet. On this consent agenda sheet, there are 3 columns on the left. First column in gray, those numbers are simply the numbers on the total consent agenda. The second column B is the number within the individual school district. And then column C is the number that corresponds on the school report. Because I reference one of these agreements on the big school report. So, first up, we're going to talk about the Columbus and the Jefferson City School District. There's one agreement. That's the Net Jets Inc. and Realty Income Properties Agreement. City review. Price was in compliance with terms of the agreement. This is
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing no further review, I'd like to question and accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Sign from the opposition. And any abstentions. The report is presented.
Next is the Jefferson City. There are 3 agreements. Side 1, side 2, and side 3. Side 3 is the future, which means they are still within their job creation timeframe. Companies' agreements were noted earlier, so not leaving their job commitments this year. So there's side 2. Job creation commitments, that's still. So the city recommends that these.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? If there's no further review, I'd like to accept the CRA report.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same side for the opposition and any abstentions.
Next on the second agenda here is one agreement with the local school district. Peninsula Company LLC, also known as yes. Actually, many signing assumption there to change the name. Is a future project. We are still within their job creation timeframe, and their numbers are full.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? For the review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the CRA report and provide any compliance. Then moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting. And then
Next on the consent agenda is 7 projects for agreements, government president agreements with the Peninsula City School District, Allied Mineral Products, All Metal Food, Behringer, number 3, Willis Westwood Water, Michael Internal, Midwest Water Supply, and United Farm Service. Columbus Industrial Owner and for future projects. They were all compliant in terms of their ordinance. City recommends their.
thank you for the recommendation. Are there any questions or comments?
So just really quickly, since there's 7 of them, you said they're all in compliance. Why are they on this?
What is in the consent agenda? So I just.
Just rolling.
Them all, and since there's 7 of them, just 7. Just for the. For all this.
Thanks.
Additional questions? Hearing no further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the CRA report and provide any compliance.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by same side for the opposition and then and we'll move to review agenda B report.
Okay, so, direct your attention to review agenda B. parentheses, R1C. There are 7 agreements that are not what this is. So this is a little unique for this year, for year 2020. Based on the disruption related to the COVID-19 pandemic, these agreements have been placed on review agenda B if job payroll or investment numbers are low, with reference to section 570985C1. Says the term may take into consideration any fluctuations in the business cycle business. We considered that things associated, we talked about a little bit before, with the pandemic, with what we call for job creation or moving forward with an investment in a project or associated payroll from the jobs is related primarily to COVID. It's a very unique year. We had a similar situation back in 2008, 2009. Through no fault of their own, a lot of companies were not able to meet their job numbers. So it's sort of like a so make a note that these were efficient. However, what we'll do for each district is I'm going to mention them where they are. The questions were taken, but we will request that the school district we recommend to consider based on the situation. So the first group is the Jefferson School District. There were 2 agreements. Their side 4 and their side 5. And on page 5 of the school report, number 6869. Their side 4, there were low jobs and payroll. Actually, there were no jobs because they were not yet released the building. Very important. As a side note, on their side 4, that building has been sold to a local Columbus company that manufactures dumps. Sells manufacturers and stores. We are doing an assignment and assumption and we state and I'm able to agree for that. And so that agreement is actually going to change and the job numbers change and some of the investment will change. So it's going to be basically a whole new agreement, but that agreement in its new form should be in good shape. Here's side 5. Construction is delayed, so the investment numbers are non-existent this year. In the construction phase, we're actually underway amending the agreement to adjust their construction window and their job creation time frame out so that they can begin construction. I think it's going to be early next year, which just did not move forward based on. So our recommendation of these agreements is to continue based on the COVID-19 situation.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing no further ado, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the CR report, finding compliance, further recommendation and development staff regarding COVID-19. Then moved and seconded, all those in favor, please signify. Inside for the opposition. Any abstention? Report is accepted.
Next is Hillsborough City Schools. There's 2 agreements here. Agenda B. Advanced Turf Solutions, page 5, number 72. Their situation is low jobs and payroll. And Roxanne, number 4, number 76, page 5, low jobs. So again, the city recommends that we go here this children. based on the global banking situation.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing no further ado, I'd like to make a motion to accept the report by the complaint for the recommendation of development staff regarding COVID-19. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for the decision. Where is accepted?
Southwestern City School District, approval agreements. Page 6, one number 85. First, the Jones Holdings and Import Distributors, both jobs and payroll, MSD Industrial Direct, no job. So, his recommendation again is to, based on the program.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any questions or comments? Further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the report finding further recommendation of development staff. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for the opposition. And then the
The final agreement here, Worthington City School District, it's SCA Limited. It says 86 no payroll. And I would like to just make a note, I should have mentioned earlier that the really the vast majority of these agreements have always been previously in compliance with general authorities for 30 years. Particularly the SCA. They had the job numbers, but the payrolls was very, very low. Age and age, but had turnover. Maybe some people left. They were able to hire some people back towards the end of the year. But they had some good headcount numbers, built their payrolls. Again, COVID-19 recommendations continue. Based on further mention.
thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any questions or comments? No further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the superior report finding compliance with the recommendation of development staff regarding COVID-19. Second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for the opposition. Next, we will review agenda C, our overfield cold storage.
Okay, this is where we do the full review, bring the attention to review agenda C. Altogether here, 3 different school districts. First up, this session was for Madison. 2 agreements. The first one was for storage number 2. This number 2 that we had. It's on page 5, number 70 on the school report for enterprise zone agreement, 35% for 10 years. 4th year, we're waiting on 2017, 2026. For background on the project, is that it involved the expansion of the cold storage facility by adding approximately 60,000 square feet of freezer space. $200 million. The current 140,000 square foot structure on New York Line. Project began towards the end of June 2016. The improvements were expected to be completed by the end of 2020. We really had no formal retained job commitment, but there were actually 29 jobs, some work agreement that were really retained under no retained payroll for the agreement. The new job creation was 2 by 2019. Payroll was 49.9 down jobs with the investment for what company improvements in environment. Back up with a skip and with globally cold storage to number 3, the different stories may be the same. Number 3 is the next one. It was the 3rd agreement. It was the expansion of the current cold storage facility by approximately 146,000 square feet on New York Drive. It's a 75% 10-year agreement. finding yet on the abatement. Um, The abatement is set to begin no later than 2020, or spending on 2020. This will technically be the first year of the abatement, but there's been no filing, so we're going to make. Their retained job commitment was 31 new jobs, there were 31 were retained, $1.2 million in retained payroll, 5 new jobs by 2022, associated job payroll, and the investment in improvements was $4.2 million. So the situation on both of these is that last year they did not submit a report. And this year they did not submit a report. Globally was purchased by a company called Americold, which is in Georgia. We have been unsuccessful past several months in China. However, last Friday, city staff actually went out to facility on Beagle Drive, and general manager was not there, but the information was got from the receptionist there who needed some annual reports. There was a trip coming up, and if we don't get on reports, they're going to recommend these two of you. On Monday, phones were out from Georgia. Because the company had been sold and people had left, and communication was lacking internally, we didn't have any good contact information. I was contacted Monday. Been requested copies of previous submissions that were made. We provided them with fresh reporting materials for both COVID-19 and COVID-20, and they are in the process of waiting for those reports and submitting them back to the city. So let's see. And we're also going to submit a letter explaining the process of the sale. When that happened, and request the agreements be amended for the signing assumption from globally to wearable. So for both of these, the city recommendation would be that the present reporting process and the assignment assumption process is now underway. Continue the agreements, we report back. Actually, continue each agreement, so this would be two separate recommendations. Then report back to TURF on the results of the review. Reports. Also to include in that letter a reminder of the reports and after. So that's the report.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions or comments either of the Cloverleaf cold storage here?
If we don't get a report, then it really depends on the recommendation of the TURF. The city's recommendation is we're assuming it. And that no matter what happens, we report back to TURF. Next year at this time, to switch where it was. And if they didn't report, then the recommendation would be. But we're confident. For the report, I sent down a PDF scan of the report, final report Bob with number 1, and then sort of see what the baselines were. Apparently, they didn't get a lot of information from some previous voting things, along with all the very important topics. Agreement number 1, until the sale went through, has always been with reporting. along with that, there's window filing, abatement on 23, for the organics benefit flowing to the enterprise on that third abatement. And they won't be able to file until so, pleasure return to city's recommendation in the way we put a line on it, say we've done before. Focus on the agreement, that's up to the board.
There are other questions?
When was the last time we actually had a report from either the new entity or what reporting year was the last time we actually got?
2018. Because last year was would have been important for 29 projects. We did not receive any report and we've been getting response from trying. And then the first agreement expired at the end of each. So that's the recommendation. Last year's term was okay. Well, then this should expire. So then we requested reports. So we've been trying all year. To get made that connection. Sure.
When was it purchased?
Right.
I think they were purchased in either 2018 or 2019. I'm not really sure. We weren't necessarily advised, we just found out and they were sold. Back. So we've been understanding the business communication. Now, the other thing is that the Cloverleaf Cold Storage is headquartered in Sioux City, Iowa. So the headquarters is up there. That's the first hurdle that would have came with Iowa. And I do know for a while that the people in Iowa continued with the project without everything done. Their headquarters. And they were very apologetic about that. This was like news to them. And the worship really wasn't there for a lot of these things. And so they were immediately provided all the documentation. Reports, collecting information.
So just personally, I think the church should recommend some type of deadline. It seems like we went after them for a year and then when we finally said we're about to resolve you, all of a sudden they run off. So it seems like they do better when there's a deadline. So just my own personal opinion, there should be some type of deadline that they have to get reported to since we haven't heard 2 reporting years now.
We don't hear from them for 60 days.
We think that could certainly be added to the recommendation. It's very reasonable.
Are there any other questions or feedback? Make sure you've got all your questions answered.
I appreciate their questions I had were asked. I would just say from the school district perspective, we do have bona fide concerns about them, their agreement. I understand and recognize the sale may have violated some of the transfer of information, but the purchaser has an obligation to do their due diligence. And I appreciate, I like the idea of a deadline. I would probably still vote no. We are in an expanding growth area, and when we enter these agreements, we expect our partners to honor their commitments as well.
I'll vote against it. I don't know. Whatever.
Just to make a note on that, we send the letter out. In previous years, we would send them out certified mail. But what I did last year, what we've been doing with a lot of things is I draft the letter, attach it to an email, get delivered confirmation, get reconfirmation, so I know that the letter was received. So if it goes out by email or if it goes certified mail, I get back the card that says delivery mail next day. So that's the day they receive the letter is when the clock starts. That's when they receive the date. Okay, they receive the letter on November 1st. I've got until January 1st. Everything, and that's what we did. Yeah. People have to resolve the agreement, people report back, and we were moving to resolve the agreement.
Any additional questions or comments?
Has anybody been received for this process from the district or what I'm looking at here, looks like there's a property investment and all we deal with tax abatements on that, correct?
Yes, this is a 75% 10-year abatement. I don't have previous year's information on terms of what revenue sharing. I just their new job payroll numbers are fairly, in terms of their commitments, are fairly low. So it's unlikely that their payroll attributed to the new jobs created in these projects would reach $1 million, which would trim the membership. But the employee number 2, the event that's been in place since 2017. So 2020 was the 4th year, so they had 4 years of foregone tax benefit. Foregone tax benefit, 75% value of the improvements. It's they so they have their foregone. So why they need work.
Any additional questions? Seeing no further review, I'd like to start with overlay cold storage on panel number 2. Is there a motion for the board? I'll do my best to summarize what I heard and see if that is related to the point. So I'd like to seek a motion to accept the report, find it in compliance, per recommendation of development staff that Clearfield Cold Storage would report back to staff report back in 2022 to the church on the status of the report. That the development staff would send a letter reminding them of timely accurate reports, and that a report is received within 60 days of receipt of notification of and they would be terminated.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Same sign for any opposition. Can you voice it? Can you say aye on the? And any abstention? The report is accepted. Next, we'll move to Cloverleaf Cold Storage Company, all number 3. If there's no further ado, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the report and it compliance for the recommendation of staff, the development staff will report back to the clerk for the report, as well as send a reminder of when time and accurate reporting is needed, as well as providing a 60-day window for compliance, or else the CRA would be terminated. Seeking that as a motion. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for the opposition. And any abstention.
Okay. Holy cow. so that the program. We're moving on to school review. Moving forward. This is district project, so. We don't want to go. Thank you for the time.
The next one on the review is Columbus School District 162 CRA. We'll begin with the consent. Circular agreements.
Okay, and the consent agenda page. There are 34 agreements. On this, 34. Top of the page. Read them all. If you want to make them known. 810 Grandview LLC number 2 is new. This year, number 15, Gravity number 2 is new. 25 and 26 on the list, Pinchline Company 2 and Pinchline Company 3 are new. Research Analyst Companies, number 28 on the list is new. Then number 10 on the list, Former Upholstery at KDL, that will dissolve. And so it's on the consent agenda because we didn't rebuild it this year. The reason why is that there was no value to abate. It's a project. It's determined by the county auditor. It's not by me. So there was no reason to payment. So enterprise requested to do this. So that's all that I talked about. So for the balance of these, you're on the consent agenda list, if they are reading or exceeding the commitment in the agreements. The recommendation to the church is to vote on the bill.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any questions or comments? If there's no further review, like,
Just to be clear on, and all, we're voting to continue, but we need to make a distinction on that for purposes of the motion.
You know, if you would like, it might say, you know, to continue, noting that the children are supposed to be agreement. Section the rest of the bill.
That would work.
it's the only reason why we're just finding in compliance. And so there's all of the method compliance. So, but I'm open to any motion you would like to make.
I like what Mr. Jones was, I can just be I like just being clear.
Seeking no further review, I'd like to seek a motion, having no further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the CA report. Accept the report, find them in compliance with notice that the Former Upholstery Incorporated Union Property LLC CRA has been dissolved.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded, all those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Say second by your opposition. And any other? We will move to, has been accepted, we will move to review and that page.
I haven't seen this report yet, but this is review agenda A, which is sort of a traditional review agenda report. Past several years ago, the agreements were non-compliant, they were filed, but they expired otherwise. Yes, city's deadline or the state deadline, particularly the state deadline. But when you do get their report, and you do the report, you find them to be fully compliant. So recommend they take the vote on this approved, continue, and then we send letters advising them to me.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any questions or comments? If there's no further debate, like seeing things. Second up. So, all those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Same sign for the opposition. Abstention. Report is accepted.
Okay, next is agenda B, which is the noted, which is COVID waste fluctuations. There's 12 agreements. And then like earlier, just for 2020, based on the discussion related to COVID-19. And B, see, job, payroll, or investment was below. Based on the protocol from Vice Code section 70185C1. Take into consideration any fluctuations with the salary need. So, there's 12 agreements. Just sort of roll down the list pretty briefly, which I indicate each one of these, what their situation was. Just be clear. 900 Shore North. I'll refer to the school report line, page 194, and look jobs and payroll. It's a huge project. We're still within their job creation time frame, but they were still low. Tech, future project, page 107, look jobs and payroll. Black Sapphire C, Columbus University, page 108, jobs. Those ventures, no jobs and payroll. They were actually just one job low. The payroll was low too. We talked about them earlier. They were being amended and shared. CSC leasing, contract sweepers, page 216, low job and payroll. Granite, 1901 David LLC, future projects still in their job creation timeframe. Page 223, low jobs and payroll. Folder number 2, future projects still in their job creation timeframe. Page 227, low jobs and payroll. National Bank, page 229, low jobs and payroll. Jai Baloo, page 230, low jobs. Knightsbridge on changing, page 232, no jobs and payroll. These companies intending to say forward, future project, in their job creation timeframe, page 2, no jobs and payroll. Then the Zimmerman companies, which will 63, their jobs and payroll. So that will see the line thing is no jobs and payroll, agrees, should be back. Team. Our recommendation is to vote on this student.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any comments?
Just some clarifying questions on both Claris and on Ivory. I know that I believe we've had some issues in the past with timely reporting. Right? Has that been rectified at this point?
For Claris, yes. And what was the other one? Oh, yes, that's been rectified.
Okay.
They got that fixed.
Thank you.
And when you say low numbers to COVID, that is from the entity, correct? So that's, you're reaching out to these entities and they are saying these numbers are low due to COVID, due to the ability to hire, or is that the department saying it's low due to COVID?
We have heard back from some of these companies that that's the reason why. But it's more the department, we look at these agreements have traditionally been on consent. The job numbers, always been exceeding. So because of the sheer number of these, at the rate 2020 was just a crazy year. Across the board, it impacted a lot of different industry sectors, which we could close. Our decision was we would just group these for this year, very much like we did in Delaware in the work session for what's.
So this is your grouping basically saying in an otherwise normal year, these are all compliant, yet strong companies that are missing or that are off job specific.
Or any additional? If there's no further review, I'd like to see the commission's accept the CIA reports. Find the compliance for the development staff. Consideration for.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
And then give. Board of exception. Next, we will move to review agenda C, our 342. Here.
Okay, review agenda C. Line agreements for the Columbus City School District, review agenda C. We're gonna start, school report, page 1, number 2, which is 800 North Pine Investments, LLC. Enterprise on agreement, 75%, 10-year agreement. The active line. This is the one. So background on this project is consists of the construction of a 10-story, approximately 1 square foot hotel, commercial office of retail development. 7,000 square foot ground floor restaurant space. Construction parking for 154 vehicles on one level underground on the second floor. Approximately 45,000 square feet of commercial office space on floors 325, a Moxie Hotel, floor 69, second restaurant on the rooftop on the 10th floor. And in the North High Street, the short North Rice District. The portions of this project led to the enterprise agreement. Square feet of Class A commercial office space and 86. Project was expected to begin fall of 2017, and all of the project improvements expected to be. Commitments for the agreement, new jobs are 30 in 2022. Job payroll is 1,425,000. No job commitment. Real property investment was 18.2 million, 14 million in office, and 4.2 million to garage. And square footage was 45,000. So they reported an investment number of 5.6 million. That's 41% total payment. Yeah, and no new job payroll. The job commitment for year 1. 10. For the payroll for year 1 was 475,000. Their situation was they were late to report. They were including reporting. They were not able to provide any tenant job or payroll. They were on the consent agenda last year. 2020 was the first year of a 3-year job creation window that they would obtain jobs. For the enterprise, 100% space is needed. Base operator. They sublease co-working space, and the current co-working subtenant is Upstart Network. We didn't receive a report for WeWork price. Upstart had no obligation to provide job payroll information for the client. Some lease with WeWork, not the lease with Enterprise. Also advised by the enterprise that they did not put language in schools with WeWork to ensure that the tenant provides job payroll information to the city. There's a clause to bring that for that commitment to do it with language in their leases. So we know that there are jobs in there. But there are jobs that we would ask, which have just not yet reported. City recommendation is to continue the agreement. We're still in the job creation pipeline. Send enterprise a letter requesting the job payroll report for the employees in the town currently leasing 100% of the office space. And also a jobs plan outlining the process for obtaining jobs. Would like us to kind of like the report on that. So. Somebody.
Thank you for the report recommendation. Are there any questions or comments?
I like adding the time limit.
It's 60 days, and what would you like? Would you like it within 60 days to review the food dissolve, or would risk the solution? Just the regular job creation timeframe. If this was the fourth or fifth year, yes, our recommendation would definitely be to resolve the agreement if we don't get the report. Because we're still hashing things out that by suggesting that it might be resolved, we come back, that I think that to that we risk. So the recommendation will be said that they report within 60 days of receiving the letter of the agreement would be at risk.
Let me just get a clarification. You said that they did rectify the lease agreement. Say that they do need to report or they're working.
Well, I did not include that in the recommendation, but the recommendation was they do need to get that information for the even if they don't do that, I guess. Need that information. Their challenge is going to be the job creation is through jobs. They made the decision to lease all their space to co-working. The situation with co-working space is that most co-working tenants are short-term. Be here for a month, couple of months. Get established what I'm doing, we can grow, relocate someplace else, take out a long-term place. So if we can't get that information, they're there for the children. But they made that decision for this person. But we do want the information we work. And we also want to know how we're going to get to 30 jobs. That's what they say with the job. And give us that information. The request to resolve it, or we come back and give them 3 years to get the normally if it's a 3-year commitment window, they could actually have no jobs, 30 jobs. And they're complying within that 30 years. But if it's like no jobs, those go 2 years, we'll send them a letter saying, hey, rather on a ball, we're gonna like to stay on that, to make them aware was committed. And then the couple of point in time where the official they get. And they'll series of to make it boost the better. Right now.
But just so, we know that Upstart has been taking up the entire WeWork space. Right, it's a company that we've been working with expanding in Portland, so there are a lot of jobs there. It's not that it's, vacant or empty. But it's that relationship of co-working. WeWork's the tenant, then they're getting their clients to report the jobs that exist on site. It's that kind of two-step process. It's a struggle.
It's just a made situation. So it's not like the jobs aren't there because of
this setup, it's gonna be a different circumstance that you'll have to assess. That's what we're.
I think that's why we're asking if they can make that into the movie, to say, hey, you guys.
So it's really the step of WeWork baking it into their agreements with the companies that occupy the thing. Right? That's the missing piece right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Turk wants to include the 60-day, I'm fine with it. I see it as different than the Cloverleaf one, the one we talked about before, right? You're talking about multiple years of not complying. So we feel like you have to threaten, if we have a 3-year job goal for this, for this route, to then on year one, say, you have 2 months or else we might dissolve. To me, seems a bit premature, but again, I'm fine with what the recommendation is. If we gave them 3 years, we probably should at least give up 1 or 2 to start to comply, to give us some numbers. And if they don't get there by year 3, or they're still not sending in reports year 3, that's a bigger issue. Yeah.
Well, it's saying at risk of being dissolved, right? So that's different than the other one, right?
I have found that when we say at risk, it tends to give people a chance. Because they don't want to lose. So they will do whether we actually do. It's a threat, but it's not an empty threat. So it's the equation.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you for the report recommendation. I would like to seek a motion to accept the report, finding in compliance with the economic development staff recommendation as well as a 60-day notice of timely compliance needed or else dissolved. Possible.
They agree with the at risk.
Let me rephrase. I'd like to seek a motion to accept the report for finding and compliance per the economic development school recommendation with a 60-day notice, no compliance, risk of dissolvent. Moved in second, all those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Same sign for opposition, and it is.
Next on the list is Henderson Development Company. Intro number 6. So for agreement. Term of 75% for 10 years. There's been no filing. Currently, for the agreement, development will begin after 2021, but will extend beyond 2030. For the background, this project will consist of the construction of 2 separate speculative Class A light industrial gas facilities. Just over 40,000 square feet and 119 square feet. Project was originally expected to be for the novel property agreement expected to be completed by the summer. With no exemption commenced after and beyond 2029. Agreement was amended in January 2020. To revise those dates, the current time frame of the project is expected to be all the property improvements expected to be completed by December 31st. With no exemption to commence after 2021 or extend beyond 2030. The new job commitments right now are 20 new jobs by 2023, $700,000 in payroll, no retention commitments, a real property improvement investment commitment of just over $8 million. The total square footage of the project is just under 268,000 square. So they've invested some money on structures out there that they rehab $1.6 million. But there's no construction payroll reported. Per the amended agreement, for 2020 construction agreement. Situation was that they were late with reporting. The reporting was incomplete. Construction job and payroll reporting. They are once again compliance with construction. So last year they were on review. They reported late, but once they reported, they were considered. In 2019, the enterprise requested that we amend the agreement. Yeah. For the enterprise, the project had yet to begin with another time frame in 2021. They again requested that the agreement. So they amended the agreement one time to adjust all the windows out, give them time to construct the project. They've asked us again to do it. The city is not amenable to amend it in the second time. The city recommends the agreement to resolve. Then we recommend to the enterprise to come back to the city, and they are ready to.
Where's the public voter? Consumer Square East, Jason, Rice and 70, just in the southeast corner of the intersection.
It would be a really good project for that area, because that is sort of lacking in the capital improvements of this. I believe there's a waiting to land the tenant for project where it doesn't. That's why you keep doing this. So that's why our recommendation is resolve. We'll come back, consider a project when they're going to.
Thank you for the report recommendation. Are there any questions? If there's no further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the report for the recommendation of the economic development team. Development here.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Same sign for any opposition. And
Number 3 on the list is the Brunner Building. Page 1, number 9, enterprise building agreement. 75% agreement. Running from 2018 to 2027, so they're in the 7th year. Term. Project consisted of the establishment of new Class A office space, consisting of approximately 11,010 square feet. 931 High Street in the Shore. Total project involved a total investment of approximately $1.64 million, 6-story, 71,000 total square foot mixed use facility, which includes storage and parking on the lowest level, retail and more parking on the first level, commercial office on the second floor, 33 residential apartment units on floors 3 through 5, and 2 penthouse units in clubhouse. Project was expected to begin in July of 2016. Improvements expected to be completed by January 2018. The job creation commitments for the commercial office space with forming jobs by 2020. That was their final year of job creation last year. Commitment for the payroll was $160,000. No retained job commitment. Commercial office portion of the property investment was $1.94 million. For that 11,510 square feet. Reported this year, a private investment was $2.5 million related to commercial office portion. The 30.9% total taken. There were no new jobs reported. Two-year commitment was 4. And then payroll. But it was 0% came in there. So their situation was an incomplete report. And no job payroll report. Was on the review agenda R2 last year for full review. Status of trip recommendations. Okay. Sure. Trip recommendation follow up. 2020 was the third year of the job creation window. For the jobs. No reports were submitted by enterprise. So the bottom part of the situation is that we followed up with the enterprise prior to the church this summer and have not received a response directly from them. However, job payroll report was received directly from their tenant EGB earlier this month. Requested that tenant EGB are saying that submit the job payroll report directly to the enterprise as per the report instructions. And the enterprise will then submit it. So it's not the responsibility of the report to the city. Their responsibility to report to their landlord. Landlord just enterprise report. That stipulation is highlighted for the instruction. City's recommendation, continue the agreement. Job. Send the enterprise a letter requesting full reporting within 60 days, receipt of the letter. So they need to give the report from it, and they need to send it that time to city. Should the request not be fulfilled within that time frame, then the agreement would be at risk. The reason why I would recommend that this is the solution. Drive forward the importance of it's the responsibility of the enterprise to report. Not to be.
Thanks for the report information. Are there any questions or comments?
So this is your three where we've got numbers as far as property investment, but no jobs.
Yes. And the tenants there. But I didn't look at the report. But they just done it like last week. Spoke. And I emailed back to tenants and said I appreciate the report. And he said, however, which is then needs to be the recommendation.
Or like to add a timeline?
Yeah, our recommendation is.
I heard the efforts.
Within 60 days.
Thanks for that clarification. If there's no further review, I'd like to take a motion to accept the report and with the direction that relevant to it. If you're the second, all those in favor, please signify by noting that. Aye. And then bring up the motion. Any abstentions? Report is accepted.
Number 4, our supply company, the extra investments committee. Company 1, number 11. The project status report. Enterprise owned agreement, 75%, 10 years. Year 1 of 10, the agreements in place for project involved the expansion of their corporate headquarters and distribution facility. Approximately 30,000 square feet. Project was expected to begin November of 2018 with the improvements to be completed by May 20. Commitments for the agreement, 10 jobs 2022, payroll to 37 million. New jobs by 2022 was 15. Job payroll was 520. The property investment was 2.6 million. Situation is that they did not report. We have somebody. They were on the new agenda part 2 for 2022. But this year they did not report. Our reporting contact was the company. I left the company. This was information provided by the enterprise when we sent the materials. So the company called back my predecessor accountant who then contacted the city, caused us to do the contact this year, and I think the report by the first week of March. No report. I was contacted by city staff, who returned to obtain the report, but there was no. So, city's recommendation is to continue sending the enterprise a letter with love to the enterprise. Within 60 days of receipt, submit their full annual report. Full report is not received within 60 days. Receipt of the letter, the agreement should be resolved.
They have not reported since 2019.
No, they did. They did. It's just they didn't report.
You said they were on review last year.
They were on R2, which was late reporting, but they actually did report. They didn't. So they have a history. First we were but then we did not.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any additional questions or review? And vote?
But they did report where they comply.
Yes. They're still in their job training window. Year, so this was their first year. So their commitment would be 5 jobs.
So they're still in their window.
There is,
What's the department's recommendation, dissolution and not year of dissolution?
because we need a full report. If they report that they're missing some pieces, but if they don't report, well, they would ask for a report, but they don't. 60 more days.
Was that the letter that we sent last year to them?
The letter we sent last year was we needed a report, full report in 60 days.
And then we got.
Any additional review? Hearing none, I'd like to see a motion to accept the report and final.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor, please signify by take time for the opposition and any abstention. Report is accepted.
Number 4, that's actually number 5. 5. This list is Revolution Holding and DBA Delgado Tacos. 52, page 4. Present agreement. 75%, 10-year payment, starting no later than 2021, or extends on. So they're actually year -1 of 10. Project consists of the renovation and occupation of vacant production facility. Project expected to begin January 2020 with all improvements to be completed by December of 2020. Retained job commitment of 36. Payroll amount of just over 4. Good job commitment of 20 by 20. A good job payroll commitment of $800,000. That's been probably 6. Square footage is 450. So in the fourth, the private investment was 1.9 million, which is 120% attainment. They did not report construction payroll. 2020 of their construction payroll. So their situation is sort of twofold. One is that the report was in the hole. They also reported that. And it was their first report. And there was no construction payroll reported. Enterprise has advised the city that they were working on obtaining the needed data, but as of yet, no construction payroll was given. The reason why construction payroll is important. It's a metric that you report to the Ohio Department of Development. The construction payroll, it's like new job payroll. Construction payroll each year exceeds $1 million in a given reporting year. And the city revenue shares with the impacted school district. State code considers construction jobs related to the construction project or tax during that construction. This particular project, the construction payroll is projected to be 2 months. So no revenue sharing is really expected, but it's still reported to them per week. The second situation is that on March 30th, city received an email from the county auditor that the enterprise had filed their DTE, but that the increase in value for 2020 was due to one, triennial valuation, and then two, a correction to that triennial valuation due to the purchase of the property by Condado in October of 2019 for $1.26 million. So the increase in value due to the triennial correction due dated as opposed to before we parcel. That the DTE would be before the tax commission also to advise Condado. So the bottom line here is the valuation. Similar situation to before. That's what it is. Enterprise has been advised of this. City's recommendation is to continue. Send the enterprise a letter requesting full reporting within 60 days of receipt. Should the request not be fulfilled within the time frame, then the agreement would be at risk of dissolution. Additionally, the letter should, one, remind enterprise of the importance of accurate and timely reporting. Two, suggest that the enterprise should consider requesting the agreement to dissolve if there is no value.
Thank you for the report recommendation. Question for now. For review, like seeking permission to accept the CRA reward. Including economic development officer recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Anything? Or to accept?
Okay, next on the list is Riverview Hotel. Got a few more of these. Riverview Hotel, page 455 in the school report, contract agreement. For 10 years, 75 payment. Place from 2014 to 2023. This year 7 project consists of construction of a new 95,321 square foot hotel. It began in the summer of 2013. Approved by spring of 2014. No retained job and payroll commitments. Good job. Commitment was 5, but 16. Payroll report commitment of 271,000. Real property improvement investment of over $13.3 million. The situation is, they could not report. There's a caveat here. Enterprise missed the city and state reporting deadlines. 17, creation of new job payroll commitments. So, the 2020 trip recommendation was previously presented. And note that up until last reporting year, the enterprise we had been proposing establishing contact with the enterprise. However, with this agreement, we have established contact this summer. City was advised that the reporting contact from the beginning of this agreement had passed away. That the annual reporting for the agreement had simply been overlooked by the enterprise responsibility goes. So, the city distributed reporting materials for both October 2019 and active enterprise. Full reporting for both years has been received by the city, but the reports have yet to be just. So, city's recommendation is to accept the late filings to be compliant for the terms, of the agreement, put it back to 2022 term. On the results of the review, also send the enterprise a letter reminding them of the importance of accurate.
Thank you for the report recommendation. Are there any questions, comments?
Just to reiterate, you said they had been in compliance prior to this.
Yes, and if my memory serves me right, we even revenue shared this. Wasn't an expected agreement to have the revenue share on. They actually had to handle the benefits goes to such a project. They've been compliant up until, the report comes back. Just that sort of thing happens. When presented with that, they were able to go into some files and and they record that don't put that respect in their ground. Or electronically in.
Any additional questions, comments? There's no further ado. I'd the motion to accept the report and financial compliance for the expense outlined by the economic development. Commission. So, been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Same by your opposition. And it is. Rose accepted.
Okay, next on the list is RM Bill White and Watkins Road. Page 4, number 56, in the school report, there goes on agreement. 5% 10-year agreement. Abatement is firmly pending with a 60-day hold. What that is how this works in project is completed, either improvements are done, the enterprise files, they will each and the county takes that, use it. But this is to the state tax commissioner, which is funding determination. They look at the agreement and so, yeah, this is the right company, it's the right project, it's all the things line out. You guys have built ahead, give me a big, probably 99 out of 100 positive. Every once in a while, I'll give it in. But I don't really remember what that's. But what happens is when it comes back to county, it goes to a 60-day hold because there is a situation where maybe the state tax commission do the abatement with a 60-day window where the applicant can speak there. That's a time to turn it. That's the 60-day. And so on either 8/29 or 8/30 of this year, they in place. Really so the project consists of the renovation of a vacant industrial warehouse distribution facility. It's expected to begin December 2019 and with by December. So calendar year 2020 was their construction window. The jobs commitment is 23 and 40 by 2023. The job payroll is just over $1.67 million. One retained job commitment. Job payroll 85,000. Investment in real property commitment is 1.65 million. Square footage involved is just over 177.5. So their report was private investment of over $2.5 million. No construction payroll. So their situation is, incomplete reporting for adult construction jobs on payroll. For here, explained about why construction is important. We only projected the payroll to be $228,000 based on the real property improvements spent. So no revenue share was expected, but we're building. For a linear follow-up by city staff, city was advised by Amazon, they did not obtain the construction job payroll information from their general. The city recommendation is that it would be continued. Send enterprise a letter requesting a full report in 60 days of receipt of the letter. Should the request not be fulfilled within that time frame, but should also remind me of importance, accurate language.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any questions? Seeing no further review, I'd like to seek a motion to accept the BCRA report and finding compliance for the recommendation of next action by the economic development. Been moved and second, all those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Same sign for the opposition. The board is accepted.
You got 2 more to go.
Yeah, for the bottom.
Okay, you want us to want to roll or wait for it? Good roll. Okay. Next up is Town Square Company Partnership with Hunter Bank. Page 4, number 57 of the enterprise agreement. 35% 10 years. It's running from 2014 to 2023. It's year 7 of 10. Project consisted of the renovation of mixed-use facility of approximately 6,615 square feet. 101 South High Street, that's the southwest corner of the state. Project is scheduled to begin July 2013. Improvements to be delivered by 2014. No retained job with payroll commitments. The new job commitment was 2, 2017. Associated with 80. That's what they are property improvements. Situation is they did not report. The city and the state deadline they not submit report. So our recommendation is to as a matter of reported 60 days of receipt of the letter. Should the request not be fulfilled within that, it would be.
Did they have a history of non-reporting?
We've had a history of some late reporting, some difficulty in getting reporting, added funding bank to the agreement at some point past, but they're the tenants. More to report. However, you're 7 of 10, pretty deep into it, which is why the recommendation is 60 days, you don't get it.
Thank you for the report and recommendation. Are there any questions? There's no further ado. I'd like to seek a motion to accept the report and finding compliance for the recommendation. Action step.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Same sign for the opposition.
We are on our last project. Upgrade equity, Texas, page 4, number 58. Project, the president agreement, 75. The abatement is to begin no later than 2022 or extend beyond. So the project consists of the renovation of approximately 389 Short built 13 warehouse and office facility, 7-Eleven South Madison. It's the old company left facility. Project was expected to begin in March 2020, with all real property improvements expected to be completed by December 2020. They are still within their construction timeframe. The agreement had no change job or payroll commitments. The job commitment was 27 by 2025. Payroll was just over 1.2 million. Improvements is just under 2.3 million. They didn't report. The brand new project, 2020 was their first report year. Because the city's state reporting deadlines. Interesting thing about this is we and 2019, including our agreements and a fee schedule, where the agreement, this is the city's reporting deadline. Notify them, and they've got 14-day grace period, but if they still don't report within that 14 days, we invoice them in the amount of $500. So, and until that late fee is received, we don't get it. Really across all of our taxes. Tax pay. Moving forward, the agreements begin. So they were sent an invoice of $500. For the late fee. But we still never received. So, per a request from the enterprise, in May, they were sent a fresh set of reported documents. Enterprise then advised the city in July that their property was devalued by the county auditor. But the city advised the enterprise that orders their required. And for the county auditor in early August, situation is that the owner filed a complaint for the revision. Value, but the introduction of the parcel. This parcel, the OR reduced the value just over $2 million. The was a city carries forward the battery. There is a note of no improvements effective from tax year 2021. However, they didn't know what the increase if any would be. So enterprise seemed to think that it was devalued by the auditor. However, the valuation is a response to a complaint filed by the enterprise with the board of revision. So the valuation of the property was issued by the which likely would not have met that evaluation happened before the improvements were made. But have no negative impact on the valuation of the improvements following the evaluation. And so I think the enterprise might be initial progress, but here is the value of being considered. Because of some reevaluation, there's no value to debate. There likely will be. However, no reporting has been received. So, city's recommendation is to continue, and the enterprise and letter requested full reporting against 60 days letter. Should that request not be supported, then the agreement would be resolved.
Thank you for the board recommendation and thorough review of the auditor and board of revision chapter. Is there any question or feedback from members of the board? Hearing none, I'd seek a motion to accept the report. Per the recommendation, or that I got on the office, pursue those next steps and actually not compliant. Been moved in second. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
But can we find them again?
Like that. I like
Well, we could roll the dice and continue and report again. But technically, we've been, in terms of the agreement, we don't do anything related to, the clients. So they report, the federal government, 61 district report.
So that concludes the substance of the meeting. I thank everyone for their patience and wonderful presentations. One quick housekeeping matter. As those in the room like to know, you're seeks to create a new tip and by zoning application, what the auditor's office to review. Tax, as the auditor, I am asking the board to provide neutral toward the practice of having actually pertinent action grant or demand application. Beginning in 2021, all entities that issue tips for enterprise zones have been given notice of the auditor's office and begin to recommend applications to be denied. If local government shows a pattern of failing in proper administration of existing projects, they review that time to supply the information required for the term that we should be expired in here. Happy to report, Columbus has been good for standards, so unless there is a problem with a particular project, you'll continue to receive the recommendation. Is there any other business before this? Seeing that, we are adjourned. Thank you.